Time for some e-learning with Miss Atkins. E-learning with Miss Atkins. E-learning with the puppy. E-learning with Miss Atkins. Yeah. What's up, scholars? Today I want to talk a little bit more about triangle congruence. I got some feedback yesterday saying we needed a little bit more support on this subject, so here it is. Okay. In section 4.2, we talked about triangles being congruent. What does it mean for triangles to be congruent? That means all sides and all angles are congruent. That's what it means for triangles to be congruent. So if we wanted to show that two triangles were congruent, we'd have to show that all their sides and all their angles are congruent. That's 6 things. That's too many things. So we've got a couple shortcuts that we can use. 4 of them, specifically, that we're talking about right now. If we can show that all 3 pairs of sides are congruent, then the triangles are congruent by side, side, side. If we can show that one pair of angles and the 2 sides that make up that angle are congruent, then the 2 triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. If we can show that a pair of sides are congruent and the 2 angles next to those sides are congruent, the triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Or if we can show that 2 pairs of angles and a side that is not between those 2 angles are congruent, then the triangles are congruent by angle, angle, side. So these are shortcuts to showing that triangles are congruent. Instead of measuring that all sides and all angles are congruent, we can just show that 3 things are congruent, as opposed to the 6 things over here. Okay, so I've got a couple examples we're going to go through. We're going to use all the marks that are given in the picture, and we're also going to look for shared sides between those 2 triangles and vertical angles, because those will also be congruent and might not be given in the diagram, but we can mark them. Alright, let me put some numbers by these examples here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, looking at number 1, we have a pair of angles that are congruent. We have a pair of sides that are congruent. And we can also mark that these vertical angles are congruent. So we have a pair of angles, a pair of sides, and then another pair of angles. Now my hint to figuring out which of these things we're going to use to show if the triangles are congruent is to cover up one triangle and then read your symbols. So we have angle, side, angle. These triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Congruent by angle, side, angle. We used those vertical angles here that weren't marked in the diagram but are definitely congruent. Cool. Alright, let's look at question number 2. It's got 2 triangles that are smashed next to each other. It's got a pair of sides that are congruent, another pair of sides that are congruent, and then they share this side. That side is part of both triangles. So that side has to be congruent to itself. It's the exact same thing. So now let's cover up one triangle and read the markings and see what we got. We've got side, side, side. Yes, these triangles are congruent by side, side, side. All right.
Question number 3, these two triangles are not connected in any way, so they're not going to have any shared sides. They're not going to have any vertical angles, so all we have are the things that are given in the picture. Okay, so again, I would still cover up one triangle and read the markings and see what we got. We want to read the markings as close together as possible, so I wouldn't want to say side, skip a bunch of stuff, side, angle. Instead, I would say side, angle, side. Okay, cool. These are congruent by side, angle, side. Great. Question number 4, I had to draw over it in a bigger marker because my lines didn't come out too straight. The point is that these are continuous lines. So, in the picture right now, we've got a pair of angles that are congruent, another pair of angles that are congruent. We have vertical angles that are also congruent. And then that's all that we can mark up. They don't have any shared sides. So let's cover up one triangle and see what we got. We've got an angle and an angle and an angle. Well, that's not one of our 4 choices. So these triangles are not congruent. Excuse me. Goodness. These guys are not congruent. Angle, angle, angle does not work. All right. Let's check out number 5. We've got a pair of sides that are marked congruent. We've got a pair of angles that are marked congruent. And then they're smashed up next to each other. They're sharing this side, so this shared side must be congruent. Now that's all we can mark. So let's cover up one triangle, see what we got. We've got, looks like angle, side, side. Is that one of our choices? Angle, side, side? No, because there's no buts allowed. No angle, side, side. Get it? No buts allowed. Not congruent. No buts allowed. That is not a way that we can show that triangles are congruent. Not only would we be violating our ICS code of conduct regarding appropriate language, it's just not even true. If 2 triangles have angles that are congruent and then 2 sides that are not related to that angle, as in this case, the angle side side situation, the triangles aren't even congruent. It's not real. All right. Question number 6. We've got some right angles that are marked. We know that right angles are congruent to each other. They're both 90 degrees. That's the same thing. We've got a pair of sides that are congruent. And we've got some vertical angles that are congruent. Then that's all we can mark. We don't have any shared sides. That's it. So let's cover up one triangle, see what we got. We've got angle, side, angle. Yes, that's a choice. Angle, side, angle. So these are congruent. You can't see that anymore. Now you can. Congruent by angle, side, angle. Sweet. Hope that helps. If you need more assistance, of course, come hang out with me or Mr. Benzel or Miss Stahl in our office hours. Love you, scholars. See you next time.